busy every now and then, and life gets
Definitely
in the way, and things keep you going.
blessings, man. Hey, glad to have you on with us, and
Glad to be
welcome
on.
you to Sports Talk 1996. This is the success playlist, success table playlist. Excuse me.
All right.
And
No
so
worries. Thanks.
I wanted to start it off with, how did you get involved with football as a kid?
Well, that was in that transition of coming back to the U.S. from being a military kid. Like, oddly enough, I played soccer and rugby a little more at that point in life, and football seemed like fun to try. So it was kind of like the closest thing I could kind of coordinate at that point in time to rugby. So went and played that, and you know, I still will never forget. I think one of my first times ever carrying a ball in PB League ball, I was running north, south, east, and west. It was like, well, if you can't get me down, it doesn't matter, right? So I was thinking more of a little bit different game, but it was a lot of fun, and of course that was probably was about 11, I guess. So it's uh, great memories from that. I was just talking to my dad, matter of fact, about a kid. I'll never forget Corey Mincy. This kid was so little that a kid grabbed him and tried to like sling him out of bounds, but he slung him around the marker, and his feet landed back in bounds. Never touched out of
Jeez.
bounds.
Kill it, man. Kill it.
So that was interesting. Yeah, yeah.
So, looking at when you were a kid, who were some of your role models? I know you grew up around soccer,
You know,
so
well, I grew up a military kid, so the military life all the time. But everybody when I started playing football, everybody asked me who my favorite teams were and everything else. I was like, well, at that point in time, you got like three channels on base, and the only football you really got to see was probably the Super Bowl. So, you're looking at Jerry Rice and Joe Montana and like Tom Rathman, those guys back in the days, 49ers. So I was like, well, I guess these guys, like, I don't know who else is really out there. It's, you got Roger Craig or Bo Jackson. I mean, there's just a small group of people that you really got to see physically as a kid at that point in time. But, role models for me, my parents have always definitely been the two key components of my older sister as well. She's about 10 years older than me. So I was like growing up with two moms, and trust me, that's way too much for anybody. But,
I hear you, man.
when it comes to sports figures, yeah, I didn't really have anybody specifically that I would say I tried to model my game after, or do anything, or grow up, in, you know, just seeing them, in that spotlight. I mean, I grew up in, from the basketball area. It's like Jordan was huge, right? And still to this day, that's one of those that you go, yeah, like him, Clyde Drexler, Isaiah Thomas, watching those guys play basketball when I was back in the States. I mean, that's where that is. And on the football side, again, watching these athletes go round and round. I remember, that whole Bills run with Thurman Thomas and Elway and that crew going together. Andre Reed, who actually is a good friend of mine now. I mean, just different groups of guys that you got to see and watch and grow and learn from, and some that I actually got to play against, that were legends at that time. When I got in the NFL, playing against a guy like Emmitt Smith, who I'd watched, over the last several years grow from there.
Definitely with Dallas. Bless you.
Excuse me.
So,
Yes.
with the transition from going from overseas to the U.S., how did Georgia come about for you going to college?
All right. Well, being that I was a kid from Florida, right? I think that's always an interesting caveat to it. What for me, I never had a problem being away from family, right? Like, I think that's one thing that dictates for a lot of guys, where they tend to go, or unless they had a school they just grew up, loving and everything else. And, controversy as controversial as it is, my sister actually went to Florida. So she graduated in Germany on a full academic scholarship to Florida. So I, already had that kind of understanding what was going on there. And, for me, it was finding the place I felt most comfortable and confident in the guys I was going to be around. You know, it's not just about building a great team. It's about building a great team that you want to be with, you know, guys you want to play beside. And at least that's the way it is for me. And that's been great. And that was what it felt like when I got to Georgia, you know, and a lot of people ask me, well, you know, Florida had to be your second school and all this other stuff. Oddly enough, I have to say my second choice was Duke.
Oh,
I
jeez, North
yeah,
Carolina, man.
yeah. Well, and for me, it was, I love the sport. I love the game, but I know that that doesn't always last forever, right? Like that could be over just like that. And so weighing those options out and things like that, and I felt really comfortable there too as well. So, and oddly enough, I ended up playing for the Panthers, so lived in the state, you know, that was all good too.
Definitely. So how did Georgia pitch you, man? Did they, what'd they say? How
it
did they
wasn't
go
it wasn't
about
so
it?
much a it wasn't so much a pitch, but you know, it was really, again, feeling good about the guys you're going to be around. I think
Definitely.
having 20, I think we had 21 out of the 24 guys in my class on the same visit, and that was great. You know, I had like John Stinchcomb, Terrence Edwards, Boss Bailey, Tony Gilbert, Tim Wansley. You know, I mean, so many other guys that you could just keep going down the list. And that was just what I felt was a great group of guys, like Randy McMichael, you know, my host Robert Arnaud. Yeah, I mean, just so many great guys, and that I formed great memories with. And of course, having guys who were already there, like Richard Seymour, Marcus Stroud, Champ Bailey, you know, Kirby Smart, who's now the head coach, who was one of my safeties in college. Like, just on and on. You see just how much, you know, that group got to just gel together and play together, but also, you know, you knew you were going to face great competition. You knew you were going to play in the SEC. You knew that was going to be something that it's pretty much unrivaled.
Definitely. So if you had to narrow it down to one moment at Georgia, could
Oh
you do
wow,
it, man? Could you do it?
one moment at Georgia, I guess. You know, uh, I guess probably one of my biggest moments came my sophomore year, and that was a wild ordeal. You know, freshman year, I was kind of learning things, getting together with that. And then, you know, sophomore year comes around and I end up starting at middle linebacker, which is unheard of, you know, at that moment in time. I mean, trust me, the guy I ended up starting with did very well in the league too. Starting over, did very well in the league too, because a little known guy named Kendrell Bell. So, and he was an absolute monster too. So that was one of the things. But, you know, into my sophomore year, the LSU '99 game was probably one of my biggest moments in college there. Uh, you know, rolling out, quarterback, I mean, Seymour falls, Stroud falls. Like, you know, the quarterback's rolling back, and there are two guys. I peeped back, and there are two guys sitting wide open in the back corner of the end zone. I'm like, oh. So I kind of stopped and started running, and he saw them back there and lobbed that ball up. And I was like, oh, my Lord, this is not going to be pretty. So I just jumped. And knocked it away. And it, you know, to this day, apparently it's known as the SWAT. And you know, geez, guys ripped my helmet off. Like, we got another penalty for that. But you know, that was the end of the game. I mean, instead of going to take it overtime, they went for two to win it, and that was it.
This concludes our episode today, folks. We greatly appreciate the support. And if you're not a subscriber yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our up-to-date content. And if you like this video, hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. We welcome you back next time.